Good morning. And for those who celebrate, happy Easter. If not, happy spring. And it's warm outside. The temperature is supposed to rise above 80 today. I don't know about you, but I will probably be moaning and complaining about that in a few more weeks. But today I'm like, hallelujah, it's warm. So if you have a person this morning that you'd like held up during Of Our Hearts, please provide it in writing before the start of the service using the book that's still at the back of the sanctuary. Or if you're on Zoom, hello Zoom people, place their names in the chat. If you have an announcement, please submit it by the end of business on Friday so we can include it in our nifty pre-roll that was running before. You can find the link to submit announcements at uuclv.org or in the Flash. We broadcast a video feed for our virtual attendees. If you wish not to be recorded, please sit toward the back or the sides of the sanctuary. We ask that you silence any noise-making rectangles and please refrain from using the chat or talking in the sanctuary. And somehow I lost a page. So I apologize for that. I thought everything printed and I didn't check the order.
What do you mean?
No, at the end of my first page went away. Yes. No, the Chalice lighting I have. Just then I think I got everything. Okay, somehow that's the end of it. We're talking in the sanctuary. Printer error, sorry. Anyway. And if I missed anything, sorry. Oh yeah, let's get started with the ringing of the bell. Obviously a page disappeared.
Good morning, everyone. I will say happy Easter. Whatever it is you may believe, this is still Easter Sunday. So let it live, please. Here's a litany for Easter. It's shared with us by Lisa Marie and Droley Steinberg. I'm going to say a part, then you're going to say a part. I've got the big part, you got the small part. We're all good? All right, here we go. We celebrate the memory of winter's sleep and the quieting of our souls.
Sing praises for spring, revealing holy love that grows from deep in our hearts.
We celebrate the return of color and the rebirth of wonder.
Sing praises for spring, revealing holy love that grows from deep in our hearts.
We celebrate the treasure of new life and the promise within.
Sing praises for spring, revealing holy love that grows from deep in our hearts.
We celebrate the human cycle of joy and sorrow and the companionship of this community.
Sing praises for spring, revealing holy love that grows from deep in our hearts.
We celebrate the search for what is sacred and the lifelong pursuit of truth.
Sing praises for spring, revealing holy love that grows from deep in our hearts.
We celebrate the promise of summer's bounty and how it will feed our souls.
Sing praises for spring, revealing holy love that grows from deep in our hearts.
Thank you.
Tolly, you're up. I'm gonna like she's gonna read. I have a ringer to bring in today. This is my wish granddaughter Talia. Yeah. So when we gather together, we light the chalice, a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. The Chalice reminds us that we are connected to a much larger religious tradition that stretches out of the past, reaches around the world, and leans into our shared future. And now, please join with me. Holly is going to read the words.
As may iterate and acceptance and justice and provide ourselves information.
The Unitarian Universalist congregation of Las Vegas is situated on the traditional homelands of the Naiwuvi Southern Paiute people. We are grateful for the land itself, for those who have stewarded it for generations, and for the opportunity to worship, learn, work, grow, and be in community with this land and her peoples. We encourage everyone present here to engage in continued learning about the indigenous peoples who work and live on this land since time immemorial, including the Las Vegas Paiute tribe and the Moapa band of Paiutes, and about the historic and present realities of colonialism. It is important to recognize and appreciate the use of Southern Paiute land as part of our mission to be a welcoming and inclusive place for worship, spiritual enrichment, and exploration within the community. Avi Kwa Ami, also called Spirit Mountain, is a sacred site in the Mojave and Sonoran deserts in southern Nevada. The mountain and surrounding land, around 500,000 acres in total, are newly designated as a national monument, ensuring this area will be preserved. And now, please join us in our opening song, number 38 in the Grain Hymnal. Sorry, Lisa, morning has broken. And stand, yeah.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the sinking, praise for the morning, praise for the spring, praise from the word. Somewhere from heaven, like lovers do, on rivers rest. Praise for the stillness of the wilderness, song in the wilderness, where the fleet pass. Mine is the song, mine is the morning, born of the woman, Eden's the flame. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
Please.
Yeah, we are there.
Whole congregation.
Yeah.
All right, you start.
We live out our principles within a living tradition of wisdom and spirituality drawn from sources as diverse as science, poetry, scripture, and personal experience. These are the 6 sources our congregations affirm and promote.
Will you read with me, please? Direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. Words and deeds of prophetic people, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. Wisdom from the world's religions, which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life. Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. Humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warns us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. Spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions, which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instructs us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Thank you all.
We will now ground ourselves in the present and honor those with whom we will share this time. I invite you to settle into your seat, feel the chair holding you, and imagine the earth holding you. Take in a comfortable breath. Exhale. Let the joy and the despair and the frustration and the satisfaction of the week trickle off your shoulders. Let it collect in your hands. Set them down, not ignored or abandoned. They will join you on the rest of your journey today. But let them rest. Allow yourself to be present in this space. Please find a way to acknowledge those with whom we share this time together. You might smile, or wave, or place a hand over your heart. I invite you now to return to the larger circle. We were informed that Shirley Schludecker passed away. We'd like to mention her. She was a longtime member here. And also in the book today, we have Kay Peck, Dan Tosick, Barb, Tom, and Andy Klein, and Roxanne. Is there anybody in the chat in Zoom?
For prayers, Stephen and Bob.
May we hold all those displaced or alone, and all of these names spoken here, and all of those held in the silence of our hearts, in love and compassion.
You know what? I'm going to ask you all to join me with this. So if you can, if you're willing, if you might, open up your hymnal to number 627. This is from a minister that I knew long ago, and as I thought about the prayer I might offer this day, I thought about being at his service Easter of 1995, long ago, in the oldest Unitarian church west of the Hudson River in Barneveld, New York. No bathroom, no electricity. They fixed all of that now. Hear these words of the Reverend Max A. Coots. We need a celebration that speaks the spring-inspired word about life and death. Through all the cycling seasons, days, and years.
We need a sense of deity to track our own heart.
and push life out of inner tunes and outer pain.
Unless you move the seasons of self, to spring come the grass.
The winter will go on and on.
And Easter will remain dead, and life will never come again, despite the fact of spring.
Thank you all.
And now stand if you're willing and able for hymn 123, which is in your gray hymnal, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the land, giving life the shape of justice. Through Holy Ghost, bring set me free. Spirit of love, come to me, come to me.
Good morning. I'm Mary Phillips, and I am glad to have the opportunity to tell you why I love UUCLV, the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Las Vegas. But I have to admit, if you are a member or friend of UUCLV, this is really a love letter to you. I believe you saved my life. 7 years ago, I was metaphorically left in a basket on your doorstep, and yes, that does mean that I was a basket case, truly by almost every definition. And yes, it really has been 7 years. I think it's important to say that it doesn't really matter how I arrived at that point, but in 2016, I found myself in a state of catastrophic loss. I had become convinced that I had outlived my usefulness in this world, that I had done what I could, when I could, but those days had passed and I no longer held any value or interest for any person. I was foundering. Not suicidal exactly, but so frightened by the depths of my hopelessness, I programmed the suicide prevention hotline into my phone so that I would never have to find it in a moment of need. Not for the first time in my life, because I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when I was 25 years old, after all. So, not for the first time in my life, I was faced with what seemed like two clear choices. I could lie down, claim my victimhood, and stay there for the rest of my days, sure that none would fault me for it. Or I could claim my life, doing all of the things that I could still do, without framing my misfortune as an omen of my doom. In choosing to continue this life, I reached for the tools that I had known and the advice that I had frequently given. Find your community. If not already familiar with one's community, I had always suggested attending the church which most reflects your values. My previous profession as a sign language interpreter brought me certain problems with the idea of finding a church which reflected my values. You see, I had interpreted in a number of churches for a variety of faiths. Always I would find a seed of truth and beauty which I could wholeheartedly support. Unfortunately, I would also always be faced with some dogmatic point which I found utterly unacceptable. Usually that point was one of exclusion. We are going to heaven because they are not. The means of exclusion were many and varied, but I could not bear the divisiveness, the ugliness, and the hate hidden in the guise of God's will. My daughter asked me what I needed to be okay. Somehow, I knew something which led me to believe that Unitarian Universalism might be a place which might not alienate me. She brought me here, introduced me to a few people, just like my mother did my first day of kindergarten. UUCLV, your grace, your welcome, your respect, your interest, your gentleness, your support, your kindness, your interest in my abilities. You revived my hope. You welcomed me into the life of the congregation. You helped me rediscover my hope, my passion, my usefulness. Oh, to be useful is such a salve for a wounded spirit. I highly recommend it. The community you provided was such a sturdy foundation that when I was diagnosed with an aggressive breast cancer in 2021, it was not an emotional upheaval. Though the treatment has been arduous, I cannot overstate your value during this time. I remember a day that I really began to worry about my condition, but I stopped myself by remembering that you all were lifting me up in every way. Sometimes it seemed I could actually feel you holding me in love and hope and good energy. I'll be monitored closely for a while now, but mine was one of the few cases in which chemotherapy resulted in a complete response. While I'm still working to regain functionality that I lost to chemo, I am considered cancer-free. In short, UUCLV is the blessed community that remains ready to welcome all who welcome all. You have had such a profound influence on my life that I feel compelled to do everything in my power to ensure that this beautiful community continues, ready to provide a beacon to those of us who find ourselves lost or out of place in our own lives. The reason I support UUCLV is out of my urgent wish that this remains a community ready to welcome others who may find themselves in similar isolation and despair. I realize that these are very personal reasons, but they really only reinforce my support of the ways that UUCLV exists in the larger community. I support your goals and your activities and your generosity of spirit. Thank you, and I thank you.
We gather as a religious community to give each one of us a place where we can do the work of many. The offering supports the mission of the congregation to be a beacon of love and justice in the desert, and supports local organizations working to make our community a better place for all. The offering this month is shared with Street Teens. Street Teens is dedicated to assisted homeless, abandoned, and at-risk use in the Las Vegas Valley. The link to donate your offering will be in the chat on Zoom, and the plates will be passed around momentarily.
Maggie, you did all that praying. Take a bunch.
Even without the ears, a fantabulous Easter bunny, yes? And we almost forgot something, so now please join with me. With gratitude for the abundance in our own lives, we give for the life of this congregation and the benefit for the larger community. And by the way, thanks for your gifts of time and talent.
Oh, and I promised to put that extra money in. Thank you. See, it's going in.
reading I'm sharing with you is titled In the Garden of the First Easter. It's by Leslie, Keri, and Brooke, which, by the way, is me. That's my maiden name. And if I ever publish anything, you'll be looking in the BR section of the bookstore. Miriam was alone on the last bit of the path to the tomb where the body of her beloved lay. She moved quickly, eager in her anticipation of being able to do this one last service for him, to touch the flesh she had loved so well. But she was bent over like an old woman, her grief enfolding her because she knew that she would only be touching the earthly vessel. The burning spirit that animated the vessel had fled. The kindness in the eyes was gone. The breath that was behind his gentle yet authoritative voice was no more. The sun was beginning to rise, and the birds were joyously welcoming what for them was another glorious morning. Miriam could hear the voices of the other women behind her on the path, their chatter subdued in counterpoint to the singing of the birds. She clutched her bag of spices and precious ointments closer to her chest. The odors arising from the bag were a reminder that for her there would never be, a glorious morning again. As she neared the place, she saw that the stone that covered the tomb was gone. She saw that the soldiers were also gone. She ran to look inside the tomb, dread gripping her bowels, and she saw what she most feared. The body of her beloved was gone. She emerged from the tomb and realized that the soldiers who'd been guarding the tomb were also gone. Frantically, she ran through the garden, looking for anyone who could tell her where the body had been taken. It was all too much. This final blow to her heart was more than she could handle, and she fell to the ground, awash in an ocean of tears, oblivious to the world around her. A voice penetrated the bleakness. "Woman, why are you weeping?" the voice asked. Miriam stood and turned in the direction of the voice, thinking it might be the keeper of the garden. Eyes downcast, she said, "If you have taken him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will go and get him." The man reached out toward her and gently said, "Miriam." Miriam looked up to his face, a joyous smile blossoming amid the tears that streaked her face. There was only one person who called her name in quite that way. "Rabboni," she cried, and threw herself into his arms. Yeshua drew her into an embrace, wrapping his arms around her and enfolding her in his warmth. But when she turned her face toward him for the welcome and familiar kiss, he gently, reluctantly pushed her away, saying, "Do not hold on to me, because I have not yet gone back up to the Father. But go to my brothers and sisters and tell them that I am going to him who is my Father and their Father, my God and their God." Miriam watched as the figure grew brighter. She had to avert her eyes when the light became too much, and when she opened them, he was gone. But she knew that he was with her. She was still wrapped in the presence of his love. She stood there until the other women found her. They clustered about her, asking what had happened and if she knew where Yeshua was. She smiled at all of them and said, "We are not abandoned. He has returned to me and to all of us. Come now, we must go tell the others." Miriam turned on the path and walked eagerly, with her head held high, back to the city.
Somehow I heard a chorus singing, "Go tell it on the mountain." Y'all supposed to go over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain. Yeah, that's it. But that's what I heard. I was like, I wonder what's going on here. All right, so Unitarian Universalists of all kinds, all varieties, all theologies, all spiritualities often have a hard time with this Sunday in particular. Why? You may be coming out of some other religious tradition that held you in its embrace earlier in your life and then it disappointed you. But it's not the ideas of Jesus that really have failed you, right? If you look at the simple recitations of the Gospels, those things aren't the problematic things. It's all the things of Paul and the others who have added to what the Christian narrative is. Right? I mean, come on, let's be real about it. All right, so let me read this for you because it's Easter Sunday and I want to get to some chocolate and tasty things. How about you, right? So I told you, Easter is this difficult day for us. It's probably the most difficult. The other Christian holidays, you use like those, especially Christmas Eve. In fact, I'm surprised there are as many of you here today as there are. I served the United Church of Christ congregation. That's the biggest day of the year in a Christian congregation. Easter Sunday. All the fakey fake, yeah, that's what I'm calling them. Fakey fake Christians come out on Easter Sunday. Got their bonnets on, they got their best suits on, everything's hunky-dory. Woo, we so good today. Where I'm from in Harlem, we have a parade up and down 7th and Lenox Avenues. People looking good. Them black folks look good on Easter Sunday. Wicked as all sin, committing every kind of crime known to humanity, but they look good on Easter Sunday, as Christian as they want to be. But back to this thing. Easter, like Christmas, is a compound of different practices, some pagan in origin, some different strands of Christian traditions. Christmas, right, is much easier to enjoy. Giving birth is a non-miraculous human experience. I didn't write that, did I? Giving birth is a miraculous human experience. Let's be clear. I've watched that thing happen more than once. It's amazing. But the Christmas experience isn't viewed through the prism of Mary giving birth, is it now? Because that's the miracle story we ought to be focused on. Giving birth. UUs of all persuasions, all over. In fact, I've never heard of a UU that didn't like the Christmas Eve service. They bring their children, their grandchildren. It's a big, joyous thing. But Easter, that's another matter. It is all rooted in the same soil as the Passover. In fact, this month, as I told the mayor and the city council, we're selling almost all the Abrahamic faiths this month. Passover, Easter, and Ramadan all converging. Abraham must be having a party somewhere. Look at my people. Christmas is easier to take, though, isn't it? It doesn't ask you to give up on your rational thoughts as much as Easter does. A miracle birth? Well, again, back to that thing. Birth is a miracle story. How did it even happen? How did we get to be 8 billion plus? And somebody's being born this very moment. This is mind-boggling. A baby is born, happiness happens every hour, right? And what parents aren't convinced that their baby is the most special child ever born? Unto this world, upon this day, put your child's name in, they were born. So-and-so, superstar. Easter. It's another matter. If you explain away the empty tomb as a publicity stunt by his followers, then you really have nothing factual left. The Easter story, unlike the Christmas story, is not a commonplace event shrouded in myth. It's all myth. If one is to take it literally, it has to be a matter of faith. And that is certainly a choice that one can make. Many do. In fact, billions of people choose to buy the story. However, for most Unitarian Universalists, a community that places science and learning on the same level as faith, and in some congregations higher than faith, which troubles my colleagues and I, most of us anyway. It's all about choice. But there are associations of the Easter season that do resonate for many of us, even if we have no use for the literal resurrection claims. Jesus is regarded as one of the great teachers and prophets of all time. His short 3-year ministry, keep saying to Lisa, I preached 10 times as many sermons as Jesus. Why don't I get a holiday? Lord have mercy, right? Come on. This is almost 30 years in for me. He had a 3-year ministry. Well, he changed the world, purportedly. Jesus lived out a witness to a God of love, a God of powerful love that was not restricted to one special group, but extended to all peoples, and not just to men, but to women, to the LGBTQIA plus community, because Jesus didn't designate whose God's love was for. He lived out a witness that non-Jews, tax collectors, sinners, and saints were not beyond the love of God, that they desperately needed to be connected to something greater than themselves, that even the poor, the broken, the ill of every variety were loved by God. And this is all in a world that despised anything broken. My goodness, those numbnuts even made a woman in the midst of their cycle come about the building and go somewhere else. A world that doesn't understand the cycle of life and rebirth and how we get here. These people didn't have a clue. They were the clueless. Jesus' followers came to believe, or should I call him Yeshua? Yeshua's followers came to believe that he lived out a witness to this transcendent spirit of the Most High. So powerful, so encompassing that it even survives death. This power imbued in all of us. And so, in the springtime of the year, when the sun that has been so cold, it was cold here this last month, wasn't it? I thought I came to a warm city. Anyway, oh yeah, tomorrow. The cold seemed so far away, was about to draw close again. When the earth that had seemed dead for months begins to warm and blossom, when our eyes that have been starved for color begin to see so many beautiful colors. Dead grass is green. It is easy for us to associate the beginning of the season with the ministry of the one who lived out a witness to the most powerful force in the universe, the spirit of life, the spirit of creative love. It is not a cold, frozen story. It's one imbued with warmth. Hug yourselves if you could. Like, love yourselves. It is instead ever renewing, regenerating, creating a circle of love that can be called as a participatory event, making it even larger and more inclusive. It is the nature of love to be unpredictable, is it not? Who amongst us could have predicted who we might fall in love with? Did you know the first minute you saw each other? I got to get that love story. It's hard to understand who we fall in love with, right? Sometimes it's the smell. Oh, I like the way they smell. Sometimes it's in the eyes. Those eyes, so powerful, right? Sometimes it's the smile. Oh, love, that unpredictable thing. Unpredictable. unpredictable, and yet it brings us back over and over again. Love. Sometimes, though, love is unpredictable and frightening, huh? Because of love, the future can seem unknown. I was trying to get back to LA, but Lisa's brother lived in Las Vegas. Guess where I landed? It's unpredictable, I'm telling you. It's even mysterious, but that can be good. What might you know in your life about resurrection? Hmm? What might you know about resurrection? About a stone rolling back, huh? A door opening, about a surprise, along with happiness and exhilaration. When you fell in love, when you had a resurrection, when you came back to life, when you renewed your spirit, maybe you were scared too. Maybe there's fear there too. Maybe it was the end of a destructive relationship. Because sometimes you got to roll that stone back and kick that sucker to the curb. Or maybe you got to roll the stone in place and push them inside the tomb. Huh? We're going to leave you up in there. Or maybe it was a chance for you to put down cigarettes. How many of us have given up cigarettes? I mostly have one. Once or twice a year, I sneak and have a few. But mostly, I've given them up. What about breaking those eating habits that do destructive things to us? I love bread like almost nothing else on this earth. And so put some butter on it, maybe some garlic. Oh, olive oil even. But the bread don't like me. My knuckles start to swell up. I get arthritis or something. Is it the gluten? I got to leave bread alone. See, new life, rebirth, regeneration, springing into a new season, these things are possible. They're plausible when you believe in this season. Don't get caught up in what Easter and somebody's church told you it was. Find the Easter that's about the resurrection of your spirit. Find the reason for a season which brings us the most glorious colors. Lean into a world made better because there's a narrative that you get to author that means new life is possible, like Mary Phillips said, when you find your way to some place or somebody that holds you in a good embrace. Never give up, folks, huh? Keep Easter. Hold on. I miss my grandmother's lamb dinner. That used to be the big thing. I think she got it from Australia or something. Was it New Zealand? Lamb from down under. I don't know. It was so good. And that jelly, those little potatoes. It was a big deal to go to church with grandma. Some of us, we have memories of those Easter Sundays, right? And for those of you who have memories of Easter going terribly wrong, a priest, a pastor, a rabbi, an imam that was inappropriate, not understanding the great power that they held with the words they shared. Put them in the tomb. Roll the stone in front. Get some cement and seal it. You have a choice, dear friends. Live in a life where the greatest possibilities of all exist within you. Joy, excitement, love. Or suffer with all the troubles that someone else foisted upon you. It's all up to you. I'm choosing Easter. I'm choosing renewal. I'm choosing life. Amen.
So this is number 8 in the gray hymnal again. Mother Spirit, Father Spirit.
Ooh, that's a heavy one.
I think it's you next, but could be because we're near the end. No, it's me.
It's you.
Just our quick call to action. And there's a few dates we want to make you aware of. April 14th is the Day of Silence. It is a national student-led demonstration where LGBTQ students and allies all around the world take a vow of silence to protest the harmful effects of harassment and discrimination of LGBTQ plus people in schools. April 23rd, UUCLV celebrating Earth Day. After the special service that day, help clean the backyard. And now it's you.
That's me?
Yeah, you, and then we do
Oh, I'm trying to get to that chocolate.
that.
Hear these words from your former minister, the Right Reverend Ian W. Rydell. He said, today we gather today in the presence of the old story of death defeated by emptiness, of hope and newness, triumphant over fear and separation. We came with heavy hearts, with pain and anxiety, spirits flattened by exhaustion and apathy, vision darkened by strife and violence. We leave, seeking connection and love from this place of community. May the old Easter story of hope and rebirth lighten our hearts and make us glad in the presence of each other's love. May our spirits be joyful as we leave this place this day. Amen. Now the chalice.
Now the chocolate.
All right. And then chocolate.
And then chocolate, yes.
And then music.
We have more music, then chocolate. Promise we will get to the chocolate. Now please join with me. We release that which was called with love and gratitude, and we extinguish the flame, but not our commitment to being a beacon in the desert. This burns brightly until we gather again. And I just want to ask you to take a moment to ruminate on the service and ground yourselves. Thank you for coming. Next week's service is with special guest David from the Green Samaritan Group.
Good Samaritan.
Green
He's both
Samaritan.
green and good.
Please join us for our potluck and coffee hour, and the announcements will continue to roll during our friendship break. And now we get to have some music by, if there was such a thing as a pre-incarnation, I believe this man who wrote this song might be a pre-incarnation of the gentleman that we're supposed to be celebrating this day.
All right.
Keri's birthday.
She loves John Lennon.